Hey, Robert here from Mesh Masters. Today in this video, I want to have a talk about why for 3D artists it's so important to focus on naming conventions and folder structures and keeping both your projects clean, so like Unity and Unreal, but also your work files clean. And I don't necessarily want to lean on you need to be clean and professional to organize the project, but rather why we internally put so much effort and focus on keeping it clean. But before I do that, my name is Robert. I run Mesh Masters. We have both a production pillar, so an art production pillar where we get in clients and projects from clients, and we help produce, manage, and art direct their projects and eventually deliver their projects. But the last year or two already, we also added a academy pillar, a coaching and training pillar for 3D artists, for the main reason that I see so much go wrong these days, both from the artists themselves, like the beginners and intermediates it's so complicated, you need to learn so much, it's a very competitive world out there, so many things are not really optimized, but also from art leaders or company owners or studios, so much is going wrong around this whole 3D art that we're doing and being a professional. So if you're curious and want to learn more how to be a better, higher quality, higher professional 3D artist, make sure you check out our website, meshmasters.com. But back to the topic, so naming conventions and folder structures. So before I start explaining a little bit why it's so important, let me share my screen. So we internally, we hammer a lot on this, on naming conventions and folder structures. And we have our own conventions. It's pretty much the Epic conventions or the Unreal conventions, but with some little tweaks here and there. But the overall gist of it is, in general, we have a folder per asset, meaning in this example, if we have like roof tiles 01, then that would be the entire folder. And in it, you will have your static meshes with the prefix, the textures with the prefix, the materials with the prefix. And at the end, you have the number 01 and then also a letter. And the reason why we do this letter is because roof tiles 01, let's imagine that's a model, like a roof, right? Roof tiles 01 would be one model, and roof tiles 02 would be a different model. Still within the set of roof tiles, but there are different models. But what often happens is you might have roof tiles 01, but you could, for example, have different coloring and textures and so materials. So within that 01 set, you might have textures A and B, and so materials A and B. So that's why we do those letters. We often, depending on how massive the project is, we also split these into folders. So we'll have FBX, textures, materials, shaders, split it up as we need it. And besides that, it's pretty like how Epic does things with some little adjustments. So you can always find this on our website. But here the same with the folders, super important, right? This is pretty much how we do every project. So this is for Unity. So we have like characters, vehicles, weapons, and then again we split it up. So here props, and then you have Big Tree 01. Again with that split. And if it's on the source files, we always mirror the source files with the structure in the project, right? But in the source files, we'll obviously have this as an addition where you will add your Blender or ZBrush files, etc. What we often also do, or we do that all the time, is the big tree is an isolated asset. So everything is in that folder, but you will often have what we call shared assets, like a tileable texture will be shared among different scenes, textures. So it's a shared asset. and that goes in the shared asset folder. And in this case, we'll have materials, and then we'll still kind of do the same thing where cobblestone 01 and everything to make that asset complete is in that folder. In this case, that is textures and materials. But then within shared assets, you could have a separate textures folder, or maybe VFX, skyboxes, shaders, whatever it is, right? So yeah, if you're interested in this and want to apply it, take a look on our website. You can just copy it over. But why do we do this? Like I said, it's not only about keeping the project clean, which should be a no-brainer, especially if you start a new project. If you don't immediately apply this, half a year later or a couple of months later, it's going to be a shit show. Disorganized, drama. It's just going to be very difficult, especially if you need to onboard new people. So you need to do this to work effectively, especially as a team. So if you're a 3D artist out there, make sure you immediately start applying this in all your work. Even if it's just a hobby project for yourself, do this. Please do this. Start training yourself. However, the main reason why we put so much effort on this, besides everything I just said, is kind of what I just hinted at. It is to train yourself. So we are very neurotic in checking this with plugins and tools to, automate this whole system. But to really train ourselves and the team to stay sharp. So as soon as we find an error, it needs to be resolved by the person that created that asset, if the situation allows it, sometimes deadlines, to again train people. And by training on what might seem quite small, if there's like a tiny little error somewhere in one file, you only have to press like F2, rename it, done. So it seems very small, but by training ourselves, by staying sharp, that overflows in everything else we do. So in all our work. So in general, we're just becoming a better, higher professional, a better professional team by staying sharp as a team. So to bring that back to you as a 3D artist, even if you're like a beginner 3D artist, start applying this with the concept of you are training yourself to stay sharp, and you're training yourself to be that high level professional. So again, you can find this on our website. I'm, by the way, in the middle of reorganizing the website, but to find this one specifically, because it's a little bit hidden, go to Tools and Courses. Oh, let me share my screen again. Go to Tools and Courses, scroll all the way down, and then view more at the content. And then in here you can find multiple articles. Also, this is going to be cleaned up, but here you will have our naming conventions. And, you can use this. You can also Google Epic's naming conventions. I'm not even sure if Unity also has them, but you can find a lot of resources around this. Go find them, go and apply them. Feel free to make also your own adjustments to them, as long as you're focusing on training yourself and keeping your work professional and clean. I hope that helps. Like I said, my name is Robert. I run Meshmasters. If you're interested in upgrading yourself, or maybe you're struggling getting into the industry, or maybe you're struggling to, get a good portfolio going, or getting seen or noticed, we run one-day masterclasses and boot camps within our Academy pillar. Take a look there too. Maybe it's very interesting for you. They're quite intense, so it really means quite some commitment and dedication, but it's going to skyrocket your career massively, because I've been doing this for 22 years, including running my own studio. I'm pretty much trying to share that to those that really want to improve and grow and become that high-level professional. Thanks for listening. Catch you on the next video.